Okay, it's day 272 and I finally bought some new insecticide. So I've already debuted this in my last ginger episode. So this is made by Insecticide. It's called Triazicide. It's a very general purpose insect killer. I'm hoping it'll work well on these spider mites that are running amok on my honeydew vines. It's pyrethroid based as well. So this is hydrogen peroxide. Treatments just weren't cutting it, so this is my latest bet. Okay, it's day 286 and I wanted to address this problem. There's been some growth here for these vine offshoots I've put onto this trellis. It's elevated from vines 2 and 3, but the growth is very minimal. As you can see, it's basically 2 p.m. in San Diego right now, and in late October there's basically very little sun coming in, if at all. So hardly any sun comes in here due to the angle of the sun these days, and thus I'm just going to fling these back over the railing where they were doing much better. The growth is minimal here, so I need to get rid of this pot, and that'll clear up a lot of space too. So I bought some power tools and I used my power drill to drill a hole there for drainage, and the water that came out when I first started watering to flush out all the mineral deposits and pent up fertilizer in there just stank like crazy. It was fetid water. I'm not sure if there was any root rot, but paradoxically, ever since I drained this out and flushed it out a few times, the health of these plants has declined. Alright, so I rerouted all of these vine offshoots and threw them over on the other side of the balcony where they can get some sun and contribute to these vines 2 and 3. So this melon's doing well, that one's doing well. I'm making a bench for everything, and here's a small one. I'm not sure if this one is going anywhere. A lot of the smaller ones have fallen by the wayside or rotted and I just cut them away. This is the sole large melon from vine 3, and I built a bench if you watch my furniture building episode. So I tied some polyester strings to the railings so this thing won't get top heavy and tip over in strong winds. And basically I have 3 melons resting on it. This was the one on the ground. It's kind of not growing that fast anymore. This one grew a lot faster and kind of fell down and was hanging, literally by a thread. And this one is by far the biggest, but it has problems. I had it in plastic wrap. I made a sling out of plastic wrap for this melon for 2 weeks, and it would just collect condensation because after all, this is living tissue that gives off water vapor. So I'm thinking that created some rot down there. It's still hard when I press at the bottom, so I think it's not ripe. That's one of the signs, but I'll just let this dry out for one day. It'll air out like this, and if more liquid comes out, then I'll know it's overripe and I should have eaten it anyway. So I'll give a demo and chop it open. So this series never ceases to surprise. There's always trouble. It seems like this was the most difficult plant growing assignment a beginner could have chosen for season 1 essentially. So at least with these benches I won't have to worry about a similar thing happening to all the other melons, but this kind of aggravates me, and it took so long to grow. It's still getting bigger too, so that's the other reason I'm convinced that it might not be time to harvest that one. And I checked on it a few hours later and it was drying out seemingly pretty rapidly. I hope the rot didn't get past that rind, and as long as it didn't, then it'll be okay. Regarding the foliage, there were a lot of leaves I had to prune away. Most of them were just kind of dying, even though I had taken care of the spider mites with all the insecticide I had sprayed every 7 days. After 2 treatments, basically almost all the spider mites were dead. I didn't see any more activity today after 1 week of not spraying, but I will spray later on today just to cover my bases and make sure they're all dead. And there's been fungal infections on some leaves. You can kind of see a white fuzzy mold. Maybe that's because I stopped spraying hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide sprays are very effective at killing fungi.